Marta brought you anything? She asked dutifully, though she doubted they had anything worth sharing with guests. I only arrived a few minutes ago, and you know how your father and I are when we get talking. But wait a moment, I have something for you. He reached for the overcoat he'd slung over the back of his chair, pulling it across his lap until he could rummage in its pockets, and after a few moments held up a small packet wrapped in newspaper. An impossibly delicious scent filled the air. From friends who live abroad, he explained. Coffee! Oh, Father Bernardi, you are so kind. Let me dig out our cafetiera. I won't be long. She was standing on a chair searching through the top shelves of the pantry cupboard when Marta reappeared. What are you doing up there? Looking for the coffee maker. Father Bernardi is visiting. We haven't had coffee since his last visit, and that was months ago. Marta sighed. Typical of her sighs, it was drawn out, mournful, and vibrating with resentment. It will get people talking. A Catholic priest, of all people, coming to visit. How your father even knows the man. He's been a patient of Papa's for years and years, and his friend, too. And Papa always has people coming and going. I doubt anyone will care. A protest was a formality, for Father Bernardi's visit would certainly be noted and remarked upon by everyone they knew. Had they lived anywhere else, no one would have cared. But the ghetto was a close-knit place, the sort of neighborhood where people loved nothing better than burrowing into each other's business. And so her father's agnostic leanings, as well as his avowed determination to be guided by science rather than faith, had long been a focus of local gossip. Her fingers closed around the worn aluminum of the cafetiera, dusty from disuse, and she pulled it from its hiding place. Where's the grinder? In the next cupboard over. Do we have any sugar for the coffee? A little. You know, if your father had bothered to tell me he was expecting someone, I'd have made my zaiti. He really only has himself to blame, Marta grumbled. Delicious as the zaiti were, Marta couldn't possibly have made the cookies. There was hardly any flour in the pantry, no raisins, barely enough sugar to sweeten the coffee, and they hadn't seen a fresh egg in months. But pointing it out would only lead to more sighs. Instead, Antonina washed out the pot and set about grinding the barest handful of beans. So precious and rare, they might as well have been gilded. There was just enough in the little drawer of the grinder, once she'd chased out every clinging speck, to make 2 small cups of coffee, hardly more than a mouthful each. She'd reuse the grounds for herself and Marta, for even watered-down coffee tasted better than the Caffè d'Orzo, made of roasted barley that some told themselves was as good as the real thing. It was enough, for now, to smell the coffee as it brewed, as she divided it between the prettily decorated porcelain cups her parents had bought in Florence on their honeymoon, as she set them and the sugar bowl on a tray and hurried back to her father's study. The smell was the best thing about coffee, after all. And it was only so tantalizing because she was hungry. Once she'd had her supper, she wouldn't notice it as much. The men were so intent on their conversation, they didn't look up when she entered, and it would never do to interrupt. So she went about sugaring the coffee, setting the cups at their elbows, and taking her seat at a twin of her mother's chair at the casa. Her father spared her a smile, and he drank down his coffee appreciatively, but his attention remained fixed on his friend. This city, these few islands, are the nearest thing we Jews have to a promised land in Europe. We have lived here unmolested for centuries, yet you suggest that we abandon it? And for what? Her father asked, his voice rising. The dubious welcome the Spanish might offer us? A panicked trek through the mountains before the Swiss turn us back? If you had listened to me when they first barred you from your work, from your profession, I belong nowhere else. I am as Italian as you. I was born here. I have no other home. What would become of me, of my family, of my patients? And the fascists have made no move against us beyond the racial laws. You speak of the